and I hear the academic part of Ray when you talk about that. Because I have the same with my students, and pretty much I'm teaching them AI, it's a machine, but it's only as good as the data you feed in. And then you need an adult in the room because not, not all the models it creates, all the interpretations are
Well,
correct.
well, and quite frankly, that's a problem that's been around in industry forever. I can remember as a young engineer, some of the older engineers saying, "Well, this is the way things are," because that's how they had experienced it. And it's just I'll use as an illustration. I was doing a lot of the work associated with moving products from analog devices to digital devices, and so we're redesigning products to start using digital technology. And a lot of the old engineers in the room, they knew the analog type of technology. And when I would then start saying, well, so now we need to do this, we need to, they say, no, you don't need to do that, because they were still stuck in the analog paradigm. And your AI can get stuck in your old paradigm, but people also can be stuck in the old paradigm. And so, as you said, we need the adult in the room, the human in the room, but that humans needs to be able to say, wait a minute, sometimes the old rules no longer apply. We're operating in a different world now, and so I need to make that shift. The paradigm needs to shift, and the paradigm shift at the time of paradigm shift, your AI may not be very helpful because it's going to be tied to
Um,
the old way of looking at things, and it won't know what the best path is going forward because there's no data on that yet.
right,
And,
exactly.
and that's going to be the that this is part of where the prompt engineering element is going to become so important, because you're going to have to write prompts that say, assume the world looks like this instead of that.
Exactly. Uh,
What does the new world really look like, or what do we think it's going to look like? And now tell me what we have to do in that environment. So that's going to be an ongoing challenge, I believe, for all organizations.
Oh, absolutely. And as you're going through that, you're reminding me of the math classes because you have continuum math and you have discrete math.
Right.
And that's where we have discontinuities, right? You cannot predict if the direction changes. You cannot predict the future. You can take an educated guess, but expert seems to be not very good at guessing.
I had a college professor years and years and years ago who gave me one of the best life philosophy mantras that I've dealt with since then. He said, "We live life like it's a continuous a continuous equation, but really, life is a series of discontinuities."
Right.
And recognizing the discontinuities will make you successful in life. But if you think you're in a continuous function, you're going to find yourself going in the wrong direction, and stuck
Yeah.
in an area of that's no longer relevant. And where that's going to be true, that is true right now in the industry in general. There's the discontinuity of bringing in the AI, but the discontinuities are also going to apply in every industry. We've been talking a lot about the construction industry. There's the discontinuity of looking at the sustainability piece. That is a
Absolutely.
discontinuity that's changing the way we're in
Well,
looking at the value of a building.
and not only the building, it's actually the value of a company, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
before that, the mantra was companies are only built only for shareholders. And now we're talking about stakeholders. We're talking
Right.
about two, three levels removed, from we never thought of our um, uh, in the construction industry, in our home 20 years later, it has stakeholders. It has a family with kids and, maybe grandkids and all this.
Right.
And they have to live there. They are stakeholders of your business. If you build your strategy correctly, now you factor them in. It's not only shareholders, the one that take the profit the next day the building is up.
Well, and as you said, the stakeholders across the street from me, the house that was there was just this past month was knocked down, torn down, and a new house is being built. And I'm very interested in what kind of house is being built there because that's going to have an impact on the value of my house.
Of
And
course.
so I'm a stakeholder in that house, in that new construction over there, because of its
Absolutely.
impact on the value of my house when it comes time for me to sell my house.
Yeah, we dealt with like logistic companies, and they face when they bring up a new warehouse and so on, noise. The communities become stakeholders. It's like we don't
Right,
want the trucks to run day and night, across our streets. We don't want your AI data center to, raise the price of electricity and drain the water table.
right. Well, and again, where I live here in South Carolina, right now we are booming in terms of construction and people moving to this area, and our streets are massively overloaded. Our congestion, our roadways designed 30 years ago were not designed for the kind of population density we have now. And so again, we're all
So
stakeholders in all this construction that's going on.
So thinking about stakeholders in your business creates actually a positive image for your business.
Right,
It builds trust with, yes, our business is not only here to build a house and live as fast as we can. It's to
we're
make sure
building a
that the
community.
community, the
Yeah, we're
community
building a
exactly.
community. Right,
Exactly. And was not, 50 years ago. So sustainability starts to be, once you start to look at sustainability, you see elements of sustainability being plugged in various aspects, financial, insurance, stakeholders, of course, employees. The,
right.
the so it's changing the perspective of the executives on how they can run and operate a business. And as you said, the ones which figure it out, the ones that get it right, are the ones to prevail at the end.
Right.
The Grim Reaper, it's waiting for the ones which don't do it.
It doesn't take long for a company to fail. And one or two miscues, and you can be in significant problems. So that's why it's important that you see what direction industry, business environment is going so that you stay aligned with that.
Right. Exactly. And sustainability is one of the major trends we notice, especially with Gen Zers, that
Mhm.
sustainability is no longer a learned behavior, a learned uh,
It,
attitude, if you want. It is embedded. It's like, what do you mean? You know.
well, and to that point, in where I live here in South Carolina, the planning and zoning boards are now taking sustainability as a primary issue on what gets approved, what does not get approved, what kinds of projects are done, and how the land is zoned, what kind of growth happens. And so sustainability, which it used to not really be a discussion at all, it's now primary discussion in those, and that creates the boundaries of growth is based
Hmm.
upon what they come up with there. So that's
Absolutely.
it's now
Absolutely.
important. Yeah,
So, to sort of wrap up to that, I have some more questions. If we have a little bit of time, I would like to look at your
sure.
research in the risk-based. But before going there, we see a number of trend changes as we spoke. So, first change is the regulation seems to be more, I hesitate to say intelligent, but more flexible and more reasonable, especially toward SMEs,
Right,
toward the burden of heavy reporting just for the sake of reporting. Again, we have a problem with reporting because always looks at the past. It doesn't help you with if you report that you reduced carbon footprint last year, it doesn't mean that next year you'll have the same
right.
trend unless you can prove it that you have a strategy. So we unpack that, and we've seen the industry, especially the financial industry, becoming, and as you said, the stakeholders like city halls, and so sustainability starts to be spread throughout in the industry, yeah, in the social life, and also being a gatekeeper from a financial viewpoint, profitability and loss and future profitability, as you mentioned, when you deconstruct or you know bring down the buildings and make sure that you don't release the capture carbon, for instance.
Right.
So excellent, excellent. And I know you are also an expert on risk-based analysis and an author and so on. So can you educate us a little bit more about how this applies to sustainability?
Sure. The and I would say that every successful business person is an expert on risk-based analysis because that's what you have to do every day. Every day in your business, you're assessing the risk. And where I've been involved in risk-based analysis in particular is creating some tools, um, whether we're talking programs or spreadsheets or whatever, but what are the different types of risk and being able to quantify those into a methodology that allows us to determine how much risk we're going to take. We all take risk. I mean, getting up in the morning and walking down the hallway to get a cup of coffee for breakfast, you take the risk of tripping and falling. You take the risk of spilling hot coffee in your lap. There's risk in everything we do, but so I had a business manager one time who was telling me, I want you to teach my people how to create projects that don't have risk. And I just told him, you need to find somebody different because I can't teach them how to not have risk. I can teach them how to identify the risk, manage the risk, to be proactive addressing the risk, but I
Exactly.
can't eliminate risk. Risk is always there. I
Yep.
can eliminate some high risk options. By that we just say, "Hey, the risk here is now too much. And so I don't want to go down that path because it's too risky. But every path we go down has risk in it. You know,
Right.
I used to 10 years ago, I would joke about the fact that, if we're going to list all the risks, we could list that, okay, there's going to be a global pandemic that's going to shut us down. I don't mention that one anymore because it's now happened. But that was at that time we said that, and it was, but we don't worry about that one. Well, now actually, people start thinking about that since that has since happened. And so we are always going to have to be acknowledging that there is risk, and where risk-based analysis and sustainability happens is that sustainability now becomes an element of the risk equation. But to do that, we need to understand what's the impact of being non-sustainable. And so this gets back to what I earlier had talked about for the building contractor who builds a building that can't be deconstructed easily. Just all you can do is just knock it down with a wrecking ball and create tons of industrial waste, as compared to one that could be easily deconstructed and the materials recycled, reused, and continue in the supply chain. Well, there is if there is no risk for making something non-deconstructible, so it's something that can't be easily deconstructed, then I don't have to worry about it. But if there's a risk for that, if I now see that as a risk, that becomes part of my decision process. And so
Absolutely.
risk analysis is a decision tool, and the key is identifying the categories of risk and then being able to establish some kind of a quantification of that. And that quantification can still be a qualitative quantification. I don't have to have something that I can measure to three significant digits. Just being able to measure it as low, medium, high many times is sufficient. But to be
Hmm.
able to do that and then recognizing where are the risks so that I can be proactive in my response to it. There are some risks I can eliminate.
Hmm.
Most risks I can't eliminate. And so now what I have to do is decide, so how do I want to address that? I can put in a mitigation strategy, which is,
Hmm.
in essence, what you're doing there is you're trying to say, yes, the risk might happen, but it's not going to hurt as much. I've done something to insulate myself from that so that, like I buy long lead materials in the construction world so that if there is a delay in materials, I already got some on order. That's a
Right.
mitigation strategy.
Hmm.
There can still be delays, but I've got materials already on order, already coming in, so it's not going to be as impactful for me. Um,
Right.
I can also transfer risk. I can do
Uh,
things like take insurance, bring in an expert in an area who is so. If I'm going to build a building, I want to go get an architect, build a sustainable building. I want to get an architect who knows how to design for sustainability. That way, I
Absolutely.
don't have to guess about it and make some wrong decisions. I bring in the experts, and that's a way of lowering my risk is by getting people who know, who understand this area far more than I do. I don't have to be an expert in everything. Instead, I bring in the right expert. So I can transfer the risk to the expert and say, you figure that out and give me the right answer.
Yep.
And some risks I will still accept. When you're in the construction world, I'll accept the fact that there's going to be weather risk. Some days are going to be rainy days, some days are going to be beautiful days. Now, I may guide my construction so that if I know that I'm not going to where I live right now. At nighttime, we're below zero temperature, not below zero, below freezing temperatures every night.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be doing things that if it freezes is going to be a problem for me. I don't want to do that kind of construction work here in January. I'll do
Concrete.
that in
Working with
May.
concrete, for instance.
A great example. Or if I'm going to do concrete work, I'm going to check the weather and make sure that weather report says we're going to be warm for the next 2 weeks, and not very sub freezing temperatures every night. So I'll accept some risks, but I'll still take wise actions so that when I'm accepting it, it's not a problem. I don't envision that it's such a minor issue. It's not going to really create a significant challenge for me.
And
And
I
that's
think, yeah, I think as you're describing, it's actually risks plug in various aspects of sustainability, right?
right,
From direct impact on the environment to, for instance, considering who are the stakeholders, right?
right.
Uh,
Considering the stakeholders, there's the direct impact on the environment. There's the direct impact on ongoing costs to maintain and service and whatever you're doing, because there's costs associated with that, and that's part of sustainability. Part of sustainability is the people that I have involved. Am I using a transient workforce, or am I creating a permanent workforce who can continue to manage and work in this area and develop skills and expertise that may make sense. There may be areas though where I don't need to develop skills and expertise because this is a one and done. We'll never do that again. In which case, a transient workforce does make more sense. And so, but that's all
Absolutely.
now part of the sustainability questions, and that's part of the risk analysis around that.
And reflecting on other industry and how sustainability change was the pressure on the right to repair. So a lot
Mhm.
of electronics in our pockets were made to have a shorter than expected lifetime because of the way they were designed. They were designed for renewal for
Right.
for buying the latest device, and you see a stakeholder saying, "No, we need the right to repair. It should be repairable in other shops, not on yours." So you lost and it is a business risk. Now your lifespan of your devices may be extended by 20, 30, maybe 50%.
I've got what feel is an amusing story in that area. As you mentioned in my intro, I worked for the General Electric company for a while. GE had developed a light bulb that was a long life light bulb that would literally last 10 times longer than your typical incandescent light. Uh, Now, there was a little bit of a price premium on that to be able to develop it. It
Sure.
wasn't quite the same price. People wouldn't buy it. They wouldn't buy it because a current light bulb, a typical light bulb, incandescent light bulb, was good for about 2,000 hours of light. For most people, that means that it's going to last, based on how they use it, it's going to last 5 or 10 years. And they're going, 10 years from now, I'll buy another light bulb. I don't need a light
Yep.
bulb that's going to last 50 years. I'm not going to last 50 years. I don't care about that. So and they just couldn't get couldn't sell those. Then LED lights come out. They have those longer life, but they also have less operating costs. So they
Mhm.
lowered the amount energy usage up front. Now everybody wants LED lights, and they talk about, oh, it's long
Mhm.
lasting. You're not buying it
Right.
because it's long lasting. Long lasting was not the issue. You're buying it
Yes.
because it lowers your electric bill this month.
It's the TCO, the total cost of ownership. And
Right.
that reminds us about the white paper we wrote together. And part of it was how to put the sustainability in front of the processes of design, sustainability
Right.
market requirements, sustainability product requirements, sustainability design requirements. In this way, sustainability doesn't become a one-off, right? It becomes part of the product life cycle.
You design it, and that again is back to designing a building for deconstruction. You design it in, and when you design it in, you can often do that at very little incremental cost. But if you try to put it on after the fact, it's very expensive.
Absolutely.
And we see that again in the building deconstruction. One of the challenges right now, if I want to deconstruct a building, is um, to be able to separate the materials by uh, wood, concrete, copper, whatever it is, drywall,
Sure.
whatever, to separate the materials is more expensive than what the material is worth.
Absolutely.
If I had designed it to be easily disassembled, easily separated, well, now that I could look at that building like it's a materials bank. It's a bank of material there that I can pull that out at any point in time, go use it somewhere else. But when we don't design it that way, I can't separate things
Ma-
out, and so it's just waste.
makes me think, living in different homes, buildings, and so on, that there should be a phase for increasing the right to repair. Because if you try to pull an electrical wire in the building, you have to tear down half a wall or something. And
Exactly.
there are techniques to make it easy to repair. For instance, putting ducts in so you pull the wire through a duct, the duct stays there.
Right.
So it's part of what you said. It's a thinking uh, to the long term, right, and the sustainability of the building, right?
And even if you're thinking that the building, I want to have a sustainable building, I want to have a permanent building, we still need to recognize that building is going to be remodeled many times. I don't know what the technologies are going to look like 5 or 10 years from now. Definitely don't know what they're going to be 30 years from now. 30 years ago, I wouldn't have been considering wiring a building with Cat 5 cable to be able to have internet access to every room on a cabled basis, on a shielded cable and secure
Sure.
access. Wouldn't even have considered that. But now that is becoming at least in many commercial buildings, that's a requirement, is that you have shielded internet access into every room. And so we don't know what the new challenges are going to be, but we may have to go back and remodel buildings, update buildings to be able to accommodate that.
So definitely sustainability, in today's conversation, and I do have other questions, many others. Still staying on the risk-based analysis, is it something we started with the Omnibus? Is it something particular in the European Union that we should inform our audience about the construction industry? Are there special considerations?
I would say the special considerations are that the omnibus legislation is supposed to be driving country legislation. So the directives from Brussels are supposed to turn into laws in each of the countries, and so be tracking what is your legislation look like in the country that you operate or countries that you operate in. What does the legislation look like? How's it going to be implemented there? Because the directives themselves are to be pointing in that or leading to that. And so that would be my recommendation. Obviously there's the delay of moving things out. Most of the implementation that was supposed to happen as of January 2026 has moved out to 2028. Some things even out to 2029, some things only to 2027, just depending upon which element of which directive. But keep track, and quite frankly, this is a great place where you can bring in AI to help you. Tell your AI to go read through the directives, the EU directives, and your country's laws, and what's happening there? Are our country laws currently compatible with the directives? And if not, what do we see changing, and when's it going to change? Let AI help you on that, because there's a lot of um, there's a lot of work just trying to keep up with all the things that are happening there all the time. And that's where you have to have those couple of people just keeping track of all the standards and all of the directives and all the laws and how are those changing. That's a place where we can let AI be a big help for you.
As you're going through this very good description of the regulations, I think there is a silver lining by having very heavy regulations initially because it increased the awareness. So some companies, especially large companies, are already set with sustainability. They have their
Well,
sustainability organization. So they'll move forward. Okay, regulation on one side, banking, finance on the other side, stakeholders on the other side. They are aware now.
and to that point, large companies in particular, the omnibus bill did not relax any requirements on them. They do have to do the reporting, the due diligence and the reporting here this year. So those requirements have not gone away for them at all. And so they shouldn't go, oh, we can breathe a sigh of relief. We don't have to deal with that for another year. No, you have to deal with it now.
Right, exactly. So some are in the now category, some are in the next year, but they have the infrastructure to do it already, so they
Right,
cannot stop, right? They,
right.
they may defer the report, but the processes have to be already inside the companies. As we both know, setting processes in large companies, it's a dentist work, right?
So let's go back to an earlier point that we'd made. If I want to let AI write these reports for me, AI has to have the right data. We'd mentioned that the AI needs to have the right data. So even if your company isn't required to report anything now, you need to start structuring and capturing your data now so that
Absolutely.
your AI can report on it when it has to start. But you've already got all of the data bugs worked out. You've got your data quality, your data by all that's been taken care of, so that when it comes time to do the reports, your AI is ready to go, and it just happens. Just the mouse click and it occurs, and you're done with it. But you need to have already set up the data structure. So that data strategy
Totally.
is the key thing that you should be doing now, even if you don't have to do reporting. You need to create your data strategy and implement it here in 2026.
And these regulations also help with introducing renewables.
Right.
They help also introducing in the larger process of digital transformation, as you mentioned. You have to collect data, you have to understand your data, you have to
Mhm.
look at your data as a strategy. The whole process has to become part of the strategic process, as
Right.
we mentioned, right? Because
Right.
reporting, it's only part of it. It's compliance, you have to do it. But only reporting is not going to set up you on the trajectory of really building a sustainable enterprise.
I was listening to a news report this morning of an organization that is in significant problems right now because when an auditor came in to audit things, reports weren't up to date. So they were backdating reports. They were trying to generate reports that should have been generated a year ago. They weren't. They were creating all that. People are going to go to jail for that.
Mhm.
And so that's get your data structure pulled together now. Don't wait until you have to do the report and then you don't have the data to do the report from,
Right,
and so you start making it up. Making up data is a good way to find yourself with different problems requiring even more lawyers.
right, exactly. And it's a different stakeholders community when you do that.
Right, right.
So we first thing we want to invite you back, but we don't let you without our last typical question about career advice for sustainability professionals. I mean, students that are just graduating. We have interns in AKFI that are just in the process to graduate in sustainability, and we have mid-career or people like myself, jumping on sustainability late in my career.
So, advice I would give from a career standpoint, sustainability is here to stay. It's not going to be a fad that is just going to show up for a year or two and be gone. ESG itself might be the fad, the thing that is here and then it gets shifted out, but the concepts around sustainability are here to stay. So the what I would say then is you're in a good path if you're going down that path, but look to find how do I we've talked a lot about using AI and the data. Start thinking now about what kind of data do we need for sustainability and how do I help my organization? How do I help myself become an expert in that area? So that when a company says, "Oh, we've got to do some sustainability reporting," I can tell them, "Here's the data we need. This is what we have to have." Be thinking about that in the context of the data architect for sustainability. Boy, I see that as being a definitely an area that companies are going to be relying more and more on people who can architect their data, their information. AKFI, we talk about making that actionable uh, knowledge. Well, the data is what helps you make it actionable. So become the data
Absolutely.
architect so that you can help to make that knowledge actionable for folks.
And this knowledge in our experience touches on on all the major parts of a business, from legal and compliance to financial. We're starting to talk to CFOs about sustainability. Why?
Right,
Because of double materiality. They see green bonds and all these vehicles insurance. They say, "Oh, what is this sustainability? What does it have to do with it?"
right,
Well, it does.
right.
So you are not you don't need necessarily to just follow a career path in sustainability and data sustainability, but in any career path you take, you should have functional knowledge of sustainability.
Absolutely. And the functional knowledge and that functional knowledge, sustainability is a long-term risk. So back to our earlier discussions, it is a risk-based analysis. So in your career, be comfortable with the idea of risk management, decision making based on risk management, data and architect, being able to architect the data, identify data. Those are things that will be important for you to be successful in this region of sustainability.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Ray, thank you, and we want you back, and thank you for taking the time to visit with us today. Make sure to tune in every week for a new episode of AKFI Actionable ESG Talk Series. You will gain new perspectives on how to mitigate risks. Thank you, Ray. And create value by integrating ESG in digital transformation with AI. Thank you again. Until next week, goodbye from Manuel.
Okay, thank you. Bye now.
Bye bye.